let's talk to Kenny. We're going to talk to Kenny. Hi, Kenny.
Hi, Kenny.
Hey, how you doing?
Oh, good. Welcome to the Atheist Experience. You're talking to Shannon and Jenna. What would you like to talk about today?
Well, I just called to meet the basic requirements of telling you who my God is and why.
Oh, neat. Okay. Can we start with what the definition of your God is?
The definition of my God?
Yeah, like if you had to define your God in a way that comports to the scripture.
Well, I just adhere to the biblical God.
Okay, what does the biblical God look like if you define it? You believe in it, so you must understand what its components are, what it's comprised of, why it's possible.
Well,
so what's the definition of your God? Because there's multiple definitions of the Christian God, even within the Christian theological understandings. You could adhere to classical theism. So I guess the best way for me to start understanding what your perspective is to know what God you believe in, even within the paradigm of Christianity. So could you please just define the God that you believe in? And if you can't define the God, why do you believe in it?
I believe in the God that is defined in the beginning in Genesis as the I am.
What properties does it have?
Why do you have to describe it from somebody else's point of view? Why can't you describe it from your own point of view?
Why do I? Well, because my God is the one that's in the Bible. I didn't fashion it myself.
Well, so I'm just curious, do you have any experiences with this God?
Well, yeah, that's why. I mean, I accepted. My parents didn't raise me as anything because my dad was a Catholic. He was German Catholic. And my mother was Presbyterian, and the doctrine of the Catholic Church is that you have to be Catholic when you're married. Otherwise, it's not a real marriage. So the Catholic priest told my dad that his sons were all bastards. So naturally, my dad left the church. But
I'm sorry, I interrupted Shannon's line of questioning.
So you wanted to explain to us why sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Kenny, but you wanted to explain to us why you believe in the Christian God. So in order to progress the conversation, I guess right now we have an understanding that you don't know what the definition of God would be for the God that you believe in, but it comports to scripture.
Yahweh is a self-existent God. He's the God that always existed. I mean, I don't know how anybody defines him, but he's the God that came in mortal flesh called Jesus and created the cosmos.
That sounds like a definition to me.
Almost 6,000 years ago.
So how do you know this?
More or less an atheist. I was raised more or less an atheist because the Catholic priest told my dad we were all bastards, and so my dad kind of didn't raise us. My mom didn't raise us in the church, so I accepted Christ at 18 years old.
Right. Why?
After having learned nothing about
what reason? What brought you to that? Like your backstory is. I'm sorry that. Yeah. So what I'm really interested in, what line of thinking brought you to adopting the belief? And if you're incorporating your backstory as Catholicism being something that wasn't good for you, and then you became an atheist into that story, that makes me, if you're incorporating that into your explanation as to why you believe, that leads me to believe that component of your life fed into you adopting this belief as opposed to analysis of whether or not it's true. Is that the reason that you're telling me those things?
I'm telling you that because I was basically a blank slate when I came to Christ. I didn't know anything about religion. At all.
Sure.
So basically like an atheist.
What do you know now, though? Because it doesn't. What do you know now, though? Because it doesn't sound like you have a solid definition for God.
Well, I don't know how to describe them to you because, I've been a Christian for quite a while, so
So why can't you describe him?
Describe him to you. Well, I've told you he's the self-existent God. He's Yahweh. He's a God.
Well, what does that mean?
From all time.
What does self-existing mean?
That means he had no creator. He is
How
the
do
creator. He's,
well? Okay, so
he's the eternal
if
God.
something, is there anything else that is self-existing?
No.
So then why are we? This is the one and only thing that you're saying that exists that was not created, and you cannot describe it, and you cannot give any kind of details about it because you say that you don't really have any experiences with it. You've just heard other people reference it. But so why are you so convinced that it even exists? That's my question. If it wasn't created and you have no evidence that it exists, why believe in it?
I never said I had no evidence.
We've asked for it and you haven't given it. Like, we've asked you to describe it, which would be...
You asked me to describe him. You didn't ask
okay,
for evidence.
sorry. Not asking for description now. What is your evidence that this God that you cannot describe exists? Because I don't know if you can't describe it.
Well, I mean, basically all of history kind of describes theism, and
no,
that's not an answer.
I can say all of I can if I can make the exact same statement and it's ambiguous enough that it would support anything I say, that's not considered evidence. I could say all of history supports that
Anything.
all of history supports that Allah, all of history, so like literally that's everything. That's me just saying everything supports it without pointing to any connection between everything and how everything constitutes support. So that's such a broad statement as to be utterly meaningless.
Well, history does support Allah. I'm not saying it doesn't. History supports all of the gods. I didn't deny any of that history.
Well, but that's the thing, is it's not even that it supports all of the gods. It's that it supports all of the fairies and all of the aliens and all of the monsters and the Bigfoots and the, you know, it supports everything.
Right. Also supports all of the atheism.
Do you understand how we could throw out that answer as evidence for anything and it'd be just as valid as what you just said? So can you give us anything that is a little bit more concrete?
Concrete for evidence?
Some kind of evidence that's not just a general statement.
So I don't throw out all of history. I accept it all.
Okay, so we're not talking about history. Okay, you know what? Okay, Kenny, I am coming to my last straw here. You cannot say that all of history supports anything. And if you give that as your answer for why you believe in a God, then that is a ridiculous reason. And I don't know what else to say to you. But can you give me any other reason?
Well,
other than history supports it?
Well, I can tell you why I became a Christian.
I would like to know what evidence you have that any God exists.
Well, my threshold of evidence is lower than yours, apparently.
You don't know what my threshold is because you haven't given me anything to work with.
We're just asking you to answer the question. And so far your answer to the questions have been, and you have to, Kenny. So I just want to summarize your answers thus far. We said, can you define a God? And you said, no, not really, but Bible God. Okay, fine. Well, what evidence do you have? Literally the entirety of history and all of reality, evidently, is your evidence. And why you believed in the God, and you said, well, clearly my threshold of evidence is lower than yours. Not one of the answers that you have given have drawn a line between any sort of evidence or experience that you've had and why you even believe in God. Like right now, if somebody asked me, why does Kenny believe in God? I don't have an answer for them. And I can't just say, because history happened, because that would be weird, right?
Well,
so let's say Shannon and I, hold on, let's say Shannon and I were like blank slates. And we were atheists and we didn't have any beliefs in a God. And you wanted to convince us. You wanted to convince us, not just describe what you believe, but you want us to believe too, correct?
Of course I do.
Okay, so how would you convince us as two people who would like some evidence that there is a God, that it exists at all? Let's try, please, if you don't mind, to not go into the details of which religion or anything. Let's just start at square one. Let's start at any God that you believe in. Let's start with that. Why should either one of us believe that God exists?
Well, as I said, I believe history, and I believe that
why
the history
should we believe?
Christianity.
Can you real though? Why do you believe it? Why do
you think that we should believe it just because you believe it?
Well, I accepted Christ at 18 years old, so there's not much I could have.
So my question is, do you think that we should believe it just because you believe it?
Well, I'm just saying that I didn't know.
No?
You want me to present?
Yes or no, Kenny?
I wouldn't have it.
Kenny? Yes
at
or
18
no?
years old. What?
Yes or no?
You should believe. You should believe, babe.
Bye.
Jenna hit the wall. I like that question.
Thank
Do you think we should believe? That's a really good question.
Since I hung up on your
I failed us.
Since I hung up on your person, do you want to pick the next one? We can try this again.
Round 2. Okay, sure.
Sorry, Kenny.